My guardians invited me to a fancy family dinner, but told me to sit at the kids' table while my married cousins sat with the adults. I quietly got up and left. Hours later, they were desperately calling me. I, 24M, stared at the elegant dining room my guardians had spent hours preparing. Crystal glasses caught the candlelight, expensive china plates gleamed against pristine white tablecloths, and the smell of roasted lamb filled the air. This was supposed to be a celebration of family, they said, a reunion of sorts. My guardians had raised me since I was 12, after my parents died in a car accident. They weren't my biological relatives, but family friends who stepped in when no blood family would. For 12 years, they'd housed me, fed me, and put me through college. I'd graduated 6 months ago with a degree in engineering and landed a decent job at a tech company. I thought tonight was about celebrating that milestone. The doorbell started ringing around 6. First came my guardian's eldest daughter with her husband and 2 kids. Then their son arrived with his pregnant wife. More cousins trickled in, all married, all with children or expecting them. I helped my guardian arrange the seating while she fussed over the final touches. That's when I noticed the setup. The main dining room had been set for 12 adults. But there was also a smaller table in the adjoining room, clearly meant for children, with plastic cups and paper napkins. My guardian caught me looking and smiled warmly. She told me I'd be more comfortable at the kids' table since I wasn't married yet and didn't have any real responsibilities like the others. The comment hit me like a slap. Here I was, 24 years old, college-educated, financially independent, and she wanted me sitting with her 7-year-old grandson and 5-year-old granddaughter. I watched as everyone took their seats at the main table. My guardian's daughter, who was 26 and worked part-time at a boutique, sat in the center. Her husband, who dropped out of college and worked construction, got the seat of honor next to my guardian. Their son, barely 22 and whose wife was pregnant with their second child while he worked at a grocery store, was treated like the man of the house. Meanwhile, I was directed to squeeze into a tiny chair next to 2 small children who immediately started arguing over crayons. The irony wasn't lost on me. These people celebrating at the adult table included a college dropout, someone who'd never lived independently, and another who'd gotten married straight out of high school. But because they had marriage certificates and children, they deserved respect and recognition. I was just the family charity case, apparently. I sat there for exactly 10 minutes, listening to adult conversations happening 15 feet away while a 5-year-old asked me to help her color a dinosaur. The adults talked about mortgages, career moves, and family planning. Important grown-up topics that I supposedly couldn't understand or contribute to, despite having my own apartment, my own job, and my own future mapped out. That's when I made my decision. I stood up quietly, walked to the coat closet, and grabbed my jacket. Nobody noticed at first. They were all too engrossed in their sophisticated adult conversation about kitchen renovations and school districts. I slipped out the front door without a word. My phone started buzzing before I even reached my car. I ignored it. The drive to my apartment took 20 minutes, and my phone didn't stop ringing the entire time. First my guardian, then her husband, then various cousins. I let them all go to voicemail. Once home, I ordered Chinese takeout and settled in for a quiet evening. I figured they'd call a few more times, maybe leave some guilt-trip voicemails, and that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The calls intensified around 9 p.m. My phone buzzed constantly with incoming calls, texts, and even Facebook messages. My guardian left a voicemail saying she was worried sick and asking me to call back immediately. Her husband left another one asking what was wrong and why I'd disappeared without explanation. I deleted them all without listening completely. Around 10 p.m., things escalated. My guardian's daughter showed up at my apartment complex, banging on my door and demanding I explain myself. I could hear her through the door, telling me how hurt and confused everyone was, how they'd spent all evening wondering if something terrible had happened to me. I didn't answer the door. She finally left after 20 minutes, but not before leaving a note under my door about how disappointed she was in my behavior and how I owed everyone an apology. The next morning brought a fresh wave of contact attempts. My guardian called 6 times before noon. Her son drove by my apartment twice. I assumed to check if my car was there. 3 different cousins sent long text messages expressing concern and confusion. I went about my Sunday normally. Grocery shopping, laundry, meal prep for the work week. Every activity was interrupted by phone calls I didn't answer. Monday morning at work provided temporary relief. But during lunch, my guardian showed up in my office lobby. My coworker came to get me, saying an older woman was asking for me and seemed very upset. I found my guardian sitting in the waiting area, looking genuinely distraught. She asked why I wouldn't return her calls, why I'd left dinner without explanation, and whether she'd done something to offend me. I told her calmly that I'd felt disrespected being relegated to the children's table despite being a grown adult with my own life and responsibilities. I explained that watching college dropouts and teenage parents get treated with more respect than me had been humiliating. She looked genuinely shocked. She insisted it wasn't about respect, just about making me comfortable since I didn't have a spouse to sit with. She said she thought I'd enjoy spending time with the kids since I was still young myself. I asked her if she'd ever seated her 22-year-old son at the kids' table when he was single. The answer was no, of course. He'd been given adult status the moment he turned 18. The conversation lasted an hour. She apologized repeatedly, saying she'd never intended to hurt my feelings or make me feel lesser. She begged me to come to dinner the following Sunday to make things right. I agreed, conditionally. I told her I'd come if she could guarantee I'd be treated as the adult I was, not as an eternal child who needed special accommodation. She promised enthusiastically and left, seemingly relieved to have resolved the situation. Update 1. The following Sunday arrived, and I decided to give them another chance. I dressed professionally and arrived exactly on time, curious to see how they'd handle the seating arrangement this time. The dining room had been reconfigured. Instead of one adult table and one kids' table, they'd set up one long table that could accommodate everyone. The children sat at one end with booster seats, but they were part of the main table setup, not segregated entirely. My guardian greeted me warmly and immediately showed me to a seat between two of my adult cousins. She'd clearly put thought into making me feel included this time. Dinner proceeded normally for about an hour. Conversations flowed naturally, and I found myself contributing to discussions about work, current events, and future plans. For a moment, I thought we'd moved past the previous week's incident. Then my guardian's son brought up an interesting topic. He mentioned that he and his wife were looking to buy a house, but were struggling with the down payment. Without missing a beat, my guardian offered to help them financially, suggesting they could borrow against the equity in the family home. This sparked a broader conversation about family financial support. It turned out that my guardian and her husband had helped fund their daughter's wedding, provided the down payment for their son's first apartment, and regularly contributed to various grandchildren's college funds. I listened to this with growing realization. Here was a family that freely shared resources among blood relatives, treating financial support as a natural extension of family loyalty. Then my guardian turned to me and asked about my own financial situation. She wanted to know if I was managing okay on my salary, whether I needed help with anything, or if I had plans for major purchases. I told her honestly that I was doing well, but had been considering buying a house in the next year or two. I mentioned I'd been saving for a down payment, but hadn't quite reached my goal yet. The response was immediate and telling. Instead of offering help like she had with her biological children, she launched into a lecture about fiscal responsibility and the importance of living within my means. She suggested I might want to consider a smaller, more affordable home, or perhaps wait a few more years until I was more established. The contrast was stark and unmistakable. Her biological children received financial support and encouragement to pursue their goals. I received cautionary advice about being more careful with money, but I said nothing. I smiled, nodded, and filed the information away for future consideration. Update 2. 3 weeks later, my guardian called with exciting news. Her daughter was pregnant with her third child, and they were planning a baby shower. She wanted to know if I'd like to help organize it and contribute to the gift fund they were collecting from family members. I agreed to help, genuinely happy for my cousin and eager to maintain the improved family dynamic we'd been building. The baby shower planning revealed even more interesting family financial dynamics. My guardian casually mentioned that they'd be giving their daughter $5,000 to help prepare the nursery and buy baby supplies. She said it was important for family to support each other during major life events. I contributed $200 to the group gift fund, which seemed appropriate for my income level and relationship to the expecting parents. During the actual baby shower, I overheard several conversations that painted a clearer picture of family financial hierarchies. My guardian sister mentioned how generous my guardians had been over the years, helping with various family members' expenses, emergencies, and major purchases. But as I listened more carefully, I realized all this generosity flowed exclusively toward blood relatives. The adopted children of extended family, the stepchildren, and the family friends who'd become like family received emotional support, but rarely financial assistance. I was curious about this pattern, so I started paying closer attention during family gatherings. At my cousin's birthday party 2 months later, my guardian announced that she and her husband had decided to help their son and daughter-in-law buy a bigger house now that their family was expanding. They were providing a substantial down payment assistance that would allow the young couple to move into a much better neighborhood with good schools. The announcement was met with excitement and congratulations from everyone present. My guardian beamed with pride as she talked about investing in her grandchildren's future and ensuring they had the best possible opportunities. After the party, as I helped clean up, my guardian pulled me aside. She wanted to discuss my own future plans and specifically whether I was being smart with my money. She'd noticed I'd been spending money on things like a gym membership, occasional dinners out, and a weekend trip to visit college friends. She suggested I might want to be more careful with discretionary spending if I was serious about buying a house. She offered to help me create a strict budget that would maximize my savings potential. The conversation felt patronizing, especially coming so soon after she'd just announced giving tens of thousands of dollars to help her son buy a house. But I thanked her for her concern and assured her I had my finances under control. Update 3. 6 months after the kids' table incident, my guardian's husband had a minor heart attack. Nothing life-threatening, but it required a brief hospital stay and some follow-up care. The family rallied around them, taking turns visiting the hospital and helping with daily tasks during his recovery. I participated fully in the support effort, visiting regularly, bringing meals, and helping with errands. During one of these visits, my guardian became emotional and thanked me for being such a devoted family member despite not being blood-related. She told me how much it meant to her that I'd stepped up during this difficult time, and she wanted me to know that I was truly considered family regardless of biology. The moment felt genuine and healing. 2 weeks later, when her husband was fully recovered, my guardian asked if I could stay after Sunday dinner to discuss something important. I assumed she wanted to thank me again for helping during the medical crisis, or perhaps discuss some ongoing family matter that required my input. Instead, she presented me with a letter she'd written. It was a formal document outlining her expectations for my continued relationship with the family as I moved forward in life. The letter specified that since I was now a financially independent adult, I should begin contributing more substantially to family expenses and obligations. It included a suggested monthly payment to help offset the costs of family gatherings, holiday celebrations, and gift-giving occasions. Additionally, it outlined my expected contributions to future family financial needs, including college funds for various grandchildren and potential emergency assistance for family members who might need help. The document concluded by noting that since I'd received so much support from the family over the years, it was appropriate for me to begin giving back now that I was capable of doing so. I read the entire letter twice while my guardian watched expectantly. She explained that all family members were expected to contribute according to their means, and now that I had steady income, I should participate in the family financial support system. I asked whether her biological children had received similar letters when they became financially independent. She looked uncomfortable and explained that it was different because they had their own immediate family expenses to consider, whereas I only had to worry about myself. I folded the letter carefully and told her I'd need some time to think about it. That night, I did think about it. I thought about 12 years of being grateful for a roof over my head and food on the table. I thought about working part-time through high school to buy my own clothes and school supplies while my guardian's children received allowances. I thought about taking out student loans while their college expenses were covered by family funds. I thought about being seated at the kids' table while married 22-year-olds were treated as adults. I thought about lectures on fiscal responsibility while others received down payment assistance. And I thought about being presented with a bill for the privilege of continued family membership. The next morning, I called my guardian and told her I appreciated everything she'd done for me over the years, but I wouldn't be making the requested financial contributions. I explained that I felt the expectation was unfair given the different